The Semine Wedding storyline titled Wedding Crashes in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is perhaps one of my favourite quests in all of gaming. It is a quest that wraps up everything that you have done in the first part of the game, and it ties everything together really well. If you have played the game before, you would know just how many characters and storylines there are all tied into this one quest, and how it shapes the rest of your time spent in the Trotsky region. It's a quest that really beautifully ties up main quests and side quests in a way you only see in a KCD game. In this video, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into all the characters, stories and hidden secrets at the Semine Wedding. Before we get into the wedding itself, we need to know why it's taking place and what characters are there. The wedding is being hosted by Sir Jan Semine, the Lord of Semine, and his son Older Semine is marrying the Bailiff of Troskowitz, Bailiff Thrush's daughter Agnes Thrush. Among the many attendees from all parts of the Trotsky region is a pair of messengers from Ratai, Sir Hans Capon and Henry of Skalitz, who are both there in the hopes of meeting Sir Otto von Berghoff, the Royal Chamberlain, Lord of Trotsky Castle and esteemed guest of the wedding. He is supposed to arrive later though, so now we will follow Henry's experience of the wedding. Henry arrives to the wedding with both blacksmith Radovan and the miller Krazel, accompanied by Enelin, a girl who is there to help get Henry into the wedding. Blacksmith Radovan is at the wedding to bring a sword to Lord Semine for the groom, and Miller Krazel is there to test a potion? As Henry arrives, he is greeted by Jan Semine, who Henry has helped previously. This is where we are introduced to Chamberlain Ulrich, right-hand man to Sir Otto von Berghoff. He is instantly fascinated by Enelin and offers to escort her at the wedding, which she obliges to. Lord Semine, on the other hand, is worried about the beggars at the gate. We will offer to help him out later on with that. For now, we'll introduce ourselves to some of the guests at the wedding. Lord Semine suggests we go and talk to Sviatia Thrush, the bailiff's son, who Henry has once had a fight with before. It's all water under the bridge to Sviatia though, as Henry did not instigate it. With Sviatia is Vitek, the son of gamekeeper Vostatic, who is a proper alcoholic, and someone Henry has met and helped out before. We will go to talk with him soon though, but first, Sviatia points out a girl named Mishka that has been spoken to by a man that Sviatia says is his friend, but also thinks that he is vulgar. This is where we are introduced to Wojtek, a hired hand that works in Troskowitz that Henry has also had a fight with before, except he won't be as forgiving. Sviatia offers to bet with Vitek on who has a better chance with Mishka, Henry or Wojtek. When Henry goes to talk to Mishka, he hears Wojtek reciting a god-awful poem.
How I long to kiss your lips and, put my hands on your hips.
Enough! I can't listen to another word.
Naturally, with a few smooth words, Henry wins over Mishka and they have a little conversation outside and dance together for a bit. This starts a feud between Wojtek and Henry. After this, Henry approaches Vitek's father, gamekeeper Vostatic, and his wife Slata, who is pleading with him not to get drunk tonight. Vostatic knows he realistically has no chance of this, so he asks Henry to help keep the booze away from him all night. Henry obliges, and throughout the night, Henry is making sure he doesn't touch any drink. If you are able to make sure he doesn't touch any drinks, by the end of the night he'll be sober and in good spirits and thanks Henry for keeping him sober. However, if you neglect and don't look over him, he'll be absolutely trolleyed by the end of the night, embarrassing himself, his wife and his son in front of everyone.
Fucking hell. Why am I at a wedding? I'm already married.
Earlier on, we promised Lord Semine that we would help him out with the beggars at the front of the gate. When we approached him, he is in conversation with blacksmith Radovan and the groom Balatai, who looks after the horses in Semine. While Lord Semine insisted that Henry enjoyed the party instead of deal with the beggars, Henry thinks otherwise, as if he helps out Lord Semine, he might be allowed to meet Otto von Berghoff and pass on the letter he and Capon were there to do. Lord Semine also mentions that he is worried about his Moravian relatives and their insatiable thirst. Henry offers to look over them and keep them in check, which he has had a bit of experience in before, as Henry has had yet another fight with one of the Moravians before, but first, Henry is going to help out with the beggars. If we take a look at who the beggars are at the gate, we can recognise a girl who had helped Henry out before in the nearby town of Troskowitz. She's called Bara, and she collects food and provides meals to those suffering from hunger and illness. There are a few common beggars and also a couple of nomads begging for food as well. Henry approaches one of the Semine guards that led him into the wedding, Commander Tuna, who supposedly knows how to get rid of them. He says all they want is food and tips Henry off that if he eats all the food on one of the plates and tells the cook Dorothy that they need refilling, she can be lured out the kitchen and Henry can collect the food scraps to give to the beggars. Henry got to work. As the wedding progressed, I think it was time Henry got talking to some of the guests at the wedding. Many of the people that Henry had helped out in the region are attending the wedding as well, including Gilles, who was a nobleman turned bandit but has now been given a second chance in Semine, a resident of Jalioth, the Lisp King Old Olbram,
Have something to drink? What do you say? Sure. To your health, Olbram. To yours, Henry. To yours.
a man who has had a lot of history with Olbram, Proshek the innkeeper who lives in Takov, Father Nicodemus, who is the priest of Trotsky Castle and the officiant at the wedding, and most of Trotsky merchants, among other people. We can also see Wojtek again after sending him packing when talking to Mishka, and he is standing next to a beer barrel drinking his sorrows away. It's at this point when Henry is approached by an old lady that requests him to dance with her daughter, Dubravka, who has come here from Sotego. She says that no one has asked her to dance, and that she is always too shy, and Henry, suspecting that there is a different reason, asks her about it, and the mother says she is very clumsy when dancing. Henry obliges to dance anyway, and then approaches Dubravka, and asks her if she would like to dance with him, and with a little persuasion because she's shy, they dance. Throughout the dance, Henry is literally losing health on his health bar because of her dancing abilities.
The bottom foot was mine. Oh God, this is punishment.
When they are done, Henry can either tell her she's shit at dancing, or lie and tell her she's a great dancer. For now, we'll tell her that she dances like a fairy. Later on in the night, Dubravka shouts to Henry,
What did you just call me?
"We could take her hints and spend some time with her, but we're gonna do something different." Henry makes up an excuse as to why they can't dance now and says he will talk later. After a couple more times of delaying conversation with Dubravka, she offers Henry a wine and to do a toast to the newlyweds. After Henry drinks the wine, he instantly feels the effects of it, and after a few seconds, he passes out. Henry then wakes up in the middle of one of the rooms in Semine, having no recollection of what happened. After hunting down Dubravka, it turns out she had spiked the wine with some schnapps, and then had given it to Henry to knock him out, and essentially R-worded him. It's also worth mentioning that the place Dubravka took Henry is right in front of where her mother stands, which suggests that she is totally fine with what her daughter is doing, and maybe this isn't the first time she has done this. Let's go back to when we were dancing and say to Dubravka what we should have said originally.
Never again.
You didn't like it?
Maybe nobody ever told you, but when you're dancing, you're supposed to step on the ground, not on your partner's feet. I hope my shattered toes grow back together.
What did you just say? You oaf. You lout!
On a lighter note, Henry promised before to keep an eye on Lord Semine's Moravian cousins, and Henry felt like it was time to have a word with them. This is where we see Yurko and the Moravians. Yurko, who is related to the Semines by their great-grandmother, has met Henry before, and as mentioned before, he was the Moravian who had got into the fight with Henry. Yurko had not forgotten about this incident.
You want to fight? Here.
What's the matter? Are you shitting it? The laddie looks like he's gonna start agreeing.
What?
Of course, Yurko was only joking around with Henry and offers to have a toast with him. Yurko didn't like the booze that they had been given though, as earlier in the day Lord Semine had confiscated the Moravians' schnapps in the fears that they would get drunk and start a brawl. Henry tells him this and Yurko has some words of wisdom to share.
Now look here, you bumpot. I'll tell you an age-old piece of wisdom. A dry Moravian is 100 times more rad than a drunk one. So, if you didn't want this place smashed to pieces, bring us some decent liquor.
As Yurko said, he wants Henry to get some decent liquor, as they should be more calm drinking it than sober or drinking standard stuff. Henry, not particularly having a choice in the matter, goes on his way to lure the guard away from the cellars, where there's drinks being stored. The guard, being thirsty and bored, is more than happy to drink some beers that Henry had bought for him, his favourite being the beer from Yetchin, and after a few beers he desperately needs to relieve himself. So Henry sends him on his way, saying he can look after the cellars for a bit. Then, as quick as you like, Henry grabs a Moravian schnapps and heads straight back to Yurko. They both have a toast together, yet Henry didn't have much to say in the matter. Henry, feeling it would be wise to tell Lord Semine that he gave them the drinks, recites Yurko's words of wisdom to him.
A wise man once told me a sober Moravian is far more trouble than a drunk one.
That sounds like Yurko talking.
As the wedding progressed further into the night, Lord von Berghoff had still not showed up to the wedding, making Lord Semine worried a bit, but Henry starts to interact with more of the guests at the wedding, and has decided to take part in a couple of activities hosted at the wedding. The Bailiff of Troskowitz, Bailiff Thrush, whose daughter is getting married at the wedding, is hosting a dice tournament, and Henry gladly enters into it. Henry, being a master dice player, thrashes the blacksmith Radovan and then the chamberlain Ulrich, who wasn't as willing to play dice. And then when he asks the owner of the apothecary in Troskowitz to play, he has lost his dice badge and can no longer compete. After beating those opponents, Henry is ready to face off against Bailiff Thrush himself, who doesn't seem keen to play either. We find out why he wasn't keen to play after Henry beats him. Turns out the bailiff had been challenged by innkeeper Bessie, who owns a tavern in Troskowitz, to a dice match, and he ended up losing to her, losing the winner's gold badge in the process. Henry now had to put her in her place and win the tournament. In the barn next door to the dice playing area is a dueling competition hosted by Captain Gnarly, a key figure serving under Lord Semine. Henry's first duel was against the groom himself, Older Semine. Henry first talks to him and you notice that Older is slightly on edge and maybe not as happy as he should be. After winning the duel, Henry goes and speaks to a figure he had heard cheering for him during the fight, someone who the last time they had spoken to had had a massive falling out and had parted ways. Sir Hans Capon of Perkstein, Henry's lord and best friend, who had both set out to the region to pass a message to Lord von Berghoff, but it didn't go smoothly. Henry and Hans only had a brief conversation though, in which Hans confirms that he is there to work on the task. Back to the tournament though, and Henry's next opponent was Flatia, who Henry was able to beat pretty easily. The last competitor was Lord Semine himself, who put up a challenge, but Henry was able to win against him, thus winning another tournament and receiving the Semine necklace as a reward. Henry further conversates with guests of the wedding and spots a girl who was looking over the castle walls with tears in her eyes. Her name is Manka, and she is looking in the direction that Takoff is in, wishing her sweetheart Henrik was here, who wasn't allowed to come. Henry, realizing she wants to be left alone, leaves her to it. Henry observes and sees that the chamberlain Ulrich and Inelin are dancing and seem to be enjoying themselves. Now, Henry approaches the Miller Crazel, who helps him get into the wedding, and remember near the start of the video, I said that Crazel was here testing a potion? Well, this is what he's trying to do.
Always wanted to brew a decoction that would prevent me from getting drunk, no matter how much I drink. And I think I'm finally going to make my breakthrough today.
As we catch up with his progress and how the potion is going throughout the wedding, we can see that, well, he is progressively getting more hammered. Gets to a point where he is so drunk that he thinks that the potion is working like a charm. By the end of the night, Crazel is so hammered that he is surely regretting his decisions. The potion, clearly, was an alarming fail.
Are you alright?
I think I'll die.
As the sun started to set over Semine, the atmosphere was still great and the guests are all having a good time. Henry goes to have a quick word with Lord Semine about von Berghoff, and Semine is still worried about the fact he hasn't turned up yet. He does tell Henry that when von Berghoff does come, he will be allowed to meet him because of the help Henry has done for him at the wedding. Shortly after this, Chamberlain Ulrich approaches Henry and asks if he has seen Enelin. Ulrich, however, has been calling her Kvieta of Colleen, which is naturally a name to hide her identity from him. Ulrich says that they were both enjoying dancing together, when he then couldn't find her anymore. He orders Henry to go and look for her to make sure she's safe. After a bit more questioning, Henry finds out that she had asked him to get a drink, and when he came back, she had disappeared. Ulrich is also convinced that there was a dirty scoundrel around her dressed in yellow, who acts all haughty and has a face that he would love to slap. Ulrich is also wary that apparently people might tell some lies about him, about the reason why Enelin might have ran away from him, and Henry should not believe what they say. With that, Henry goes on his way to look for people wearing yellow. Henry first approaches a person wearing yellow called Scribe Gabble, a merchant who sells books and Troskowitz. When Henry speaks to him, he instantly acts guilty and is extremely nervous. Henry, picking up on this, immediately presses him and asks him why Chamberlain Ulrich would suspect him personally. Scribe Gabble ends up confessing, but to Henry's surprise, he knows nothing about the girl the Chamberlain was looking for. Instead, he hands over some things that he has pickpocketed from other guests, including one of the dice badges from the apothecary owner in Troskowitz, which he had lost earlier in the day. Henry then moves on and finds another man dressed in yellow, except this man's a peasant. Henry questions him about if he has seen the woman that was talking to the Chamberlain, and the peasant says that he saw her walking with another guy dressed in yellow like him, going upstairs into the barn. Henry thanks him and heads upstairs. Henry then spots Enelin and the person Chamberlain Ulrich was referring to. It was obviously Hans Capon. Henry didn't seem all too surprised that Hans was the one with her, and Hans still wasn't too happy to see Henry. Before they could talk too much though, Wojtek, who was pretty drunk at this point, approaches the three of them, claiming that they were speaking to his girl. Both Henry and Hans, irritated at his presence, have some choice words for him, and Henry reminds Wojtek that Hans is of noble blood.
Hey, you animal! Do you have any idea who you're mouthing off to? This is Sir Hans Capon of Perkstein. He could have you pilloried for a month for talking like that.
Wojtek then has no choice but to stumble out the room looking drunk and dumb as hell. Henry then gets to the point and mentions the fact that the Chamberlain is looking for Enelin, to which she flat out refuses to go back to him for a reason she did not want to admit. The reason for what she didn't want to admit though is another video for another day, as that is a whole nother topic. The way she talks about Ulrich is quite alarming though, so Henry decides that he isn't going to force her to go back to him. She tells Henry that he should threaten to tell everyone what he wanted to do to her so Ulrich doesn't go near her again. Henry then leaves her and Hans to do what they were doing before and goes to see Chamberlain Ulrich, who was expecting to see her with him, but Henry tells him that she has left and he slightly hinted that she was disgusted by him. Ulrich, giving up, got over it pretty fast, and then Henry asks the Chamberlain why von Berghoff isn't here yet. To which the Chamberlain doesn't know himself why he's not there, as he should have arrived already. He says that if he doesn't arrive soon, they'll have to start the ceremony without him. Shortly after this, the blacksmith Radovan approaches Henry in a desperate state, asking Henry to help him as he has lost the sword they had both forged together to give to the groom. Henry questions him about what happened, and the blacksmith thinks that someone has stolen it. As he recounts the story, he mentions that he went to relieve himself at one point, to which Henry realizes that that's when it was obviously stolen. And on top of that, the blacksmith says that he was showing it off to lots of people at the wedding. Radovan describes who he thinks might have stolen it, and Henry has an idea as to who it might be. Henry then approaches Svatya, who was around the blacksmith at the time he was showing off the sword, and asks him if he knows anything about the present Radovan had for the groom has gone missing. Svatya says he doesn't know anything about a sword, to which Henry immediately calls him out on his bullshit, and then he admits he took it. Henry asks him why he stole the sword, and he said that he wants to humiliate old Semine for the way he treats his family. But Henry was not happy with him at all, as both Henry and the blacksmith would be the ones getting in trouble for it, to which Svatya, realizing his mislapse in judgment, tells Henry that the sword is in the pond outside the castle. Henry then goes to retrieve the sword from the pond, and then goes to tell the blacksmith that he has found the sword, but he does not confess that Svatya took it. Henry was just in time, as Radovan tells him the ceremony is just about to start. Then, Henry hears Lord Semine and Chamberlain Ulrich talking together.
Where on earth is he? We've been waiting for hours. I sent someone to look for him.
Master Chamberlain, how's it looking? When's Sir Otto coming?
I wish I knew, sir. His party should have been here long ago.
What?
I've sent someone to look for them, but there's no sign of them. It's regrettable, but we'd better start without him.
Let's get started, Father.
As Chamberlain Ulrich said, they have no idea where von Berghoff is, and they'll have to start the wedding without him. Lord Semine, not happy about it, agrees, and Henry, disappointed that his chance to pass the message on to von Berghoff has passed, watches the ceremony by himself. Now, it was finally time for the wedding of older Semine and Agnes Thrush. Everything was as fine as it seemed, but if you notice, during the exchange of vows, Older can hear some horses in the background.
Sacred union of Agnes and Older. I ask you before God and His holy...
We know that from events that take place after the wedding, that this was where the members of Zizka's band had arrived to pick Older up, and they were involved in a plot to attack von Berghoff, but the details to that is another video for another day. During the rest of the ceremony, Older is totally distracted and unusually nervous while getting married. After the ceremony had finished, the drinks were flowing and the party was just getting started, but for Henry, he had failed to pass the message on to von Berghoff, and felt disappointment set in while staring off at Trotsky Castle. He intends to congratulate the newlyweds and leave the party. He locates them in the cellars, but to his surprise, he sees that Older isn't there and Agnes is in tears. Agnes says that Older disappeared straight after the ceremony had finished, and is heartbroken that he left without saying anything to her. Henry talks to her for a bit, but he is really super awkward and has no idea how to comfort her. Agnes offers him a drink, and then has one for herself, as at this point she just wants to get drunk. And then after that, the door opens behind them, and none other than Wojtek drunkenly walks into the cellars. Wojtek, immediately thinking that Henry is trying to hit her up, reacts as he knows how.
You wanna fuck the bride, huh? Hypocrite!
What are you doing, you drunken fool?
As we saw, Wojtek throws the first punch at Henry, to which then causes Hans to help his friend out and throw hands himself before the whole wedding becomes one massive brawl. Agnes looks on as the day that was supposed to be the best day of her life has completely gone up in flames. Yoko and the Moravian, sensing something fun is about to happen, get up and join in on the fight on Henry's side, along with Svaltia and other people Henry has helped out. As seen, Henry proceeds to beat the shit out of Wojtek before laying the smacker down on a couple of others. At this point, the Chamberlain has had enough of the lawlessness, and orders the guards to break up the fights and arrest Henry, Hans, and Wojtek, among others, which is where the questline Wedding Crashes ends. Now, I'm aware that I missed out on the Troubadours George and Michael being at the wedding, as they didn't show up on the save slot that I was playing on, but if there was anything or anyone else that I missed from the wedding, be sure to comment that below, and please do consider leaving a like, as a lot of effort went into this video, and that would be much appreciated. Subscribe if you would like to see more Kingdom Come content in the future, and I'll see you whenever I see you.